I'm pleased to be able to welcome back Jesse Brackenberry, who is the Director of the Greenway Conservancy, and he's going to update us on all things pertaining to the Greenways. Thank you for being here, Jesse.
Sure, thank you, Dave. And I think everybody here knows that Robin is on our board, and so when I'm not here, when one of the other staff members isn't here, we've always got Robin. Thank you. So we're celebrating this year. So I'm Jesse Brackenberry. I'm the Executive Director for the Greenway Conservancy. We're the nonprofit that has the sole responsibility for the maintenance and programming and improvement of the Greenway. And so if you see something out there that you like, you should give us credit. If you see something out there that you don't like, you should call us up and tell us what it is so that we can address it. I'm here to tell you about sort of what is happening for the season. We are celebrating this year as 10 years of the Greenway. The Conservancy took operation of the park in February 2009. Park did, of course, open in sections, so for those of you that have been at it for a long time, you can pick a lot of dates to celebrate, perhaps as anniversaries, but we've chosen this one. And for that, a number of different initiatives. So a little bit further afield from the north end, but at the Rings Fountain this winter we did about $250,000 worth of repairs to the fountain, and then also an upgrade to celebrate this year. If you go out now, or choose an evening that isn't raining, the colored lights that light the fountain, the white lights that used to light the fountain are now colored lights that are in sync to the water shows. And you know, when you talk to a contractor about doing this, they tell you it's going to be great and you spend the money. It's really great. They were right. It's fantastic. So if you have not had a chance to go out there, take a walk. It's really nice. Also, for our 10th anniversary, the public art exhibit is the auto show. So kind of hearkening back to the elevated highway, right here in the north end. An immediate example of that, Chris LeBroy's photographs. They are exhibited right in the north end parks here. Those are the computer-generated images, the digitally manipulated cars. Two of those are sort of custom commissions. One of them is a car set in the basement of City Hall, and one of them is a school bus squeezing out a window of a high school in Roxbury. But hopefully people have had a chance to see and enjoy those. Throughout the park, we have a number of exhibits that are by artists working with automobiles or in the theme of transportation. We also have an augmented reality installation. So you need to download an app to your phone, but then with your phone you can, in 16 places along the park, hold up your phone and see a historical image set into the landscape. So here in each of the North End parks, there are a historical image visible in both of those places. We hired a historian who gives a voice-over explaining that. So, for example, in front of South Station, you can see a picture of the elevated rail track that ran in front of South Station. Standing, looking north from High Street, you can see the demolition that occurred to put the elevated highway in. So you can see the buildings on the side, and then you can see the giant pile of rubble that is where the Greenway exists now. We also have several commissioned artworks. So near Milk Street, there's Car Drop, where if you hold your phone up, cars are dropping out of the sky and smashing into pieces on the ground. So kind of a contemporary way to think about the history of the space. Then another initiative a couple of initiatives for our 10th anniversary on Parcel 12. So Parcel 12 is the, unfortunately, still undeveloped ramped parcel that is right near here. So first of all, art installation there, and artist Julie Lieberstadt just went up earlier this week. Highway signs and fence, fairly obviously related to transportation. Additionally, two other things that we're doing on Parcel 12. In the northern portion, closest to the north end, we have planted a wildflower meadow. So that's the area that is behind the sort of low fence that is there. You know, parcel 12 doesn't have any irrigation, it doesn't have any power, and still, someday, we will all work together, and the city and the state will move forward to make that into a great park. In the meantime, Wildflower Meadow is a very sustainable approach that doesn't require irrigation. It will grow in a little slowly. Next week, in addition to the seeding that you start to see coming up now, we are doing planting of plugs. And then by August, it should be looking, you know, flowery and meadow-like, and by year 2 and 3, some more. It is also a small enough, in dollar terms, small enough investment there that when that becomes a better park, none of us will feel heartbroken that we've spent so much money on that. So the art installation in the Crescent area, the Wildflower Meadow in the northern portion, and then in the southern portion, right near Armenian Heritage Park, behind the fence that's there, an area you may not have noticed much, but we have installed beehives. So I think these are the first beehives in a public park in Boston, helping to pollinate the Wildflower Meadow, helping to pollinate the Carolyn Lynch Garden, helping to pollinate all the gardens both on the Greenway and off the Greenway. And by the end of the year, we'll have some Greenway honey. So that's parcel 12 and art. Also related to parcel 12. So, you know, for those that haven't followed the history of this quite as much, this is where the Boston Museum was going to be. That idea was given up long ago. The state, MassDOT, has an obligation dating to the Big Dig to cover the ramps in each of the ramp parcels. So not just parcel 12 there, but parcel 6, the one that is in front of the Haymarket Garage, and further south near the Boston Harbor Hotel, parcel 18. MassDOT doesn't have the money to do that very well. You know, they have a lot of claims on their dollars, and so that has not moved forward much at all. So we have tried a number of things on parcel 12. We had the zip line there one year. We've done art installations, and you know, it is a big site. It's a big opportunity. I mean, it could be a great large park when that happens, but. We intend this summer to put out a request for expressions of interest for what would you like to see here? You know, ideas like the zip line or other things that are shorter term, you know, maybe a 1 to 3 year thing. And obviously we wouldn't put anything there without coming and talking to all of you. And it would be short term. This isn't, let's put something there that becomes the long run answer. The long run answer is that it should be a great park. And the long run answer is that MassDOT should follow through on that obligation. But in the meantime, while they aren't, let's generate ideas that don't just come from the Conservancy or ideas that get suggested in a community meeting. Let's see what people might propose to us. So we'll see what comes back on that. No doubt it will be some crazy things. Don't worry, we are not going to do a crazy thing without talking to you about it. And then lastly, I should pass around. So here are, if you would like one of our brochures with a map, you don't need to take one, but maybe you want one. We'll talk about events. We have 450 free events annually on the Greenway. I will pass around, this is a list of those that are coming to the North End. We do fewer events in the North End. In part, that's a little bit based on your feedback. In part, that is the big plazas and so on are not here. And so the ability to do big events or farmers markets or other things like that is more in southern portions of the park. I have to tell you, I have 3 kids. Our favorite parks are these. They work very well, even without a lot of programming and activation. But we have a lot of fitness classes coming, particularly, all free. Over 130 free fitness classes on the Greenway this summer, 30 of them-ish. 23 free fitness classes in the North End. DenPac will be doing 4 concerts in the park. Read Boston is bringing their book bike, and Carnival of Dogs is coming again in the fall. So I'll pass this around in case you would like to take a list. It also all exists on our event calendar, and new things come all the time. We try and get people to propose them in the winter when we're a little quieter and we're trying to plan. People think in May or June about the event they'd like to do in June or July. So this is the list for now, but it's follow us on social media or sign up for our e-newsletter. I'm sorry, one of the things not in this folder, but that should have been, my mistake, is a sign-up sheet for our e-news list. That is, every week it comes out with what's going on. And if you aren't signed up, visit rosekennedygreenway.org where you can sign up there.
Or let me know and I can.
Yeah, there you go. Any questions about what we got going on this summer on the Greenway? All right. Sean, Ford, Dave.
The app you mentioned, can I find out where that is on your website?
Sorry, where
The app you mentioned about the virtual reality,
Oh,
can I
yes.
get to that?
So you go either Android or iPhone,
Yep.
you go to the App Store, and the app is called Hoverlay, like overlay with an H in front of
Okay.
it, and you download it from there. It's a
Okay.
free app. When you go out on the Greenway, you have to choose the Greenway channel. And then being in the neighborhood of, we have about this high are cubes on, you can think of it as like a stick. Wherever you see one of those in 16 places along the Greenway, that's an indication that you can pull up the app there, and on the Greenway channel, you'll be able to see the historical photo or the art image. You have to have a phone subsequent to, at least an iPhone where I know this, you have to have a phone subsequent to 6S in order to have sufficient processing power to see it.
Okay, great, thanks.
Absolutely, thank you. Ford.
I don't know if it's in Greenway jurisdiction, but on the map it seems to be. This is upper parcels, parcel 6.
Yes.
The super ramp parcel.
Yes, the super ramp.
The-
Or super only meaning that it's
Well,
large.
yeah.
It's the worst of the ramp parcels.
My name for it is the final destination parcel because it has rebar sticking up.
Yeah.
Just like in the Final Destination movies, it's an accident waiting to happen and a pretty gruesome one.
Yeah.
3 years ago, Mass DOT had a process to figure.
4 years ago.
4 years ago,
Yeah.
to do with ramp parcels. And they made a firm commitment when I introduced the Final Destination parcel comment and said, we really need to cover that rebar up. It will be done that summer. The rebar is still there. And I'm wondering if there's anything that we can do, that you can do, that, you know, any people we should talk to get that fixed. Maybe they won't do anything permanent for it for a while, but rebar sticking up, you know, for a quarter mile, it's just not a nice look.
No, I mean, it's not only not attractive and potentially unsafe, but it's also contributing to the deterioration of the concrete there and so on. I mean, what we all want is what they were talking about in 2014, 2015 when they were running that, which is decking over and doing something with it. But there's a stabilization project that needs to be done, as they said then, ASAP, because it's costing them more and more the longer they put it off.
Separate from the ramp covering.
Right, yeah, I mean, just sort of cutting and sealing and whatever. I mean, I'm not an engineer, but addressing the rebar needs to be done. I would suggest that the state representative, who's now the chair of the Ways and Means Committee, is the best person to reach out to about concerns. He's the one that introduced the legislation in maybe 2013 that led the state to kick off that process, where he insisted that something be done about parcel 12. So he clearly cares deeply about this, although I think he's at the moment embroiled in the budget process.
I think so.
Yeah.
And is this part of the Greenway, because it's
6,
colored in?
you're saying?
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. So, I
technically-
mean,
so technically, it's your jurisdiction too, so maybe you
yes,
can.
although we, it's our jurisdiction more or less to pick up the trash and cut the lawn, tiny piece of lawn that's there. In terms of what's to happen with it, it sits with sort of MassDOT and DPDA. And I think, just stepping back for a second, I mean, I think the ideas that they put forward in 2015 to deck over those ramps, I think cost tens of millions of dollars, right? And so, you know,
Yeah.
that's expensive,
Yeah.
right? And it's expensive for an agency that has trains derailed.
We've got $30 million for a community center, so, you know, there's an idea.
Yeah. So yeah, talk to your mayor as well, right? Yeah. Dave, did you have a question?
Yeah, at a board meeting, one of your board meetings long ago, I mentioned that it would be great if the Conservancy could also at least influence, not necessarily take over, but influence the sides of the Greenway going into the neighborhoods along it. So creating kind of nice entrances to the Greenway from the communities along it. And one example of that, for instance, are the trees that should be maintained or should be planted and are not along much of that route on the other side of the street from the Greenway. In fact, recently, new sidewalks were put in between, I think, Fulton and Hanover that eliminated the tree pits that were there. Now, I don't know if they ever put trees there. Maybe there's a reason why they can't be trees. But there were tree pits there originally. The tree pits are gone, so there'll never be trees along there. And in the summertime, it's a really hot sidewalk to walk along. What influence do you have, what influence have you tried to have on those who have jurisdiction over those trees and just the other side of the street?
Yeah, so the sidewalk contract that's going on right now is, you know, for years, it has been that the state's supposed to transfer these properties back to the city. So they are substantially, I don't know specifically the ones you're talking about, but substantially, it's the state that continues to control the sidewalks, the street trees, the lampposts. They are close enough to this being turned over that the city said, before we take them, you have to bring them back to good quality condition. And so that all the sidewalk work that is going on is a MassDOT contract to the final step before turning these things back to the city. You know, our frustration in a number of places is that they're tearing out granite or brick and replacing it with concrete, which feels like it's not returning to the original condition, it's making it worse. We have expressed that for the areas right on the Greenway and in general, the areas. That is the city spec on these things and what the city has said in order to take it, what we want, and that's what meets ADA. That's not quite the answer to your question, but it's a little context for the project there. We ourselves are having a bunch of these conversations about the trees on the Greenway. So none of those have been planted in any of the places that they've been doing them on their 3 different contracts. The very first of those contracts is nearing completion and just did trees at the sidewalk across from South Station at Dewey Square Park. They put in 4 of 9 trees, leaving the other 5 tree pits empty. And I made a whole bunch of phone calls saying, you're less than half the way there, and supposedly the others are going to go in. That I also think is the first contract, first place where they put them in, and I'm hopeful that that means that, for example, the trees on the 2 North End parks on the west side, on the concrete sidewalks there, will, which are substantially dead, because the irrigation's been broken and because the city didn't care for them and so on, that those will be replaced.
And those are city jurisdiction right now? Because you mentioned earlier that it's state jurisdiction.
It is, I believe that it's, the other thing that's happened in these contracts right now is that the irrigation systems have been repaired and rationalized better so that what is remaining state property is going to be a state irrigation system. What is Greenway responsibility is Greenway irrigation system. It's all more complicated than it ought to be. Totally. The contractor's been, the reason that 4 trees were put in at Dewey, for example, is because 3 years ago when they did the walkthrough to inventory what trees needed to be replaced when the contractor did this, the answer was 4 of them. by several years later, the answer is all of them. At Dewey, there's a particular problem of there's a steam pipe running underground, and none of those trees they put in are going to live this time either, which we tried pointing out, but we got more trees anyway. Anyway, this is all a rather long-winded way to say it's complex, and we have been trying to have these conversations and advocate for the trees. Why MassDOT retains responsibility, for example, for the plaza in front of the Boston Public Market, or the plazas, on the north end side of the North End parks, I don't know. And I don't know why. I don't think those are slated to be transferred back to the city. I'm not exactly sure. I don't know why none of those have been transferred to us. In 2015, a number of little pieces along the Greenway, like the lawn in front of 128 North Street, where the North Bennett Street School, the lawn in front of that, that didn't used to be us and became us in 2015, as did the 2 planting beds at the portal tunnels there. I don't know why these other spaces weren't added, and maybe they will be at some point. We routinely say to MassDOT, you're paying no attention. If you transferred them to us and gave us a little bit of money to go with it, we'd be happy to own responsibility for it and take care of them. It was a mystery to me in 2015 why they gave us some and not all. It's a mystery to me why back in 2008 they gave us some and not all. I would guess that over time more of them sort of flow to us, but I'm not sure.
Thanks. Yes, last question.
Quick question.
Yeah.
Have you talked to the developers of the Government Center project? Because I was on the IAG and we kept pressing for them to deal, to help out where MassDOT's always crying they don't have any money, even though it was, money was appropriated for the covers for Parcel 6. There's a developer building office, residential, hotel, and it's gonna all be built in front of this ugly armpit.
Yep.
And it would seem to me that the developer could cooperate and help chip in. I kept yelling at them, get rid of this armpit. They should be building and helping to make that look better, since they're gonna be having the new bus station, it's a major 10-year project, and then right in front of it, they got this mess.
I completely agree. Full disclosure, the developer of the Government Center Garage, Tom O'Brien from HYM, is on my board. So yes, I can and do have conversations with him about this. I think...
I was hoping with the economy and everything going gangbusters that what we talked about way back before the project started to be built, that maybe their mind would have been, if they get needled enough, they may say, we shouldn't have this mess in front of a major big project.
Yeah, I'm disappointed and frustrated by that too, because it feels like with this economy, if we're not seeing action on those sites, when will we see it? And with a project at that scale, if we're not seeing action on those sites, when will we? I also think, I think there's a little bit of feeling from the city that the state has an obligation to do this, and the state should do it, not the city. And I think also that, when a project like that moves forward, it's the city that discusses benefits, and the city is hesitant to some degree to allocate benefits from a project like that to something that they feel like the state has a legal obligation to be doing. That said, we're all years on from those obligations, and nothing has happened. And so at some point you have to accept the reality of, if you keep waiting for the state to do it, it may never happen.
But that project is also getting some critical state approvals and state permits, especially relative to the MBTA station that's there. So even the state could have negotiated better public benefits. The city should have negotiated better public benefits. I can't think of, and I was involved in that project not as an IAG member, but as someone who attended all the meetings. I can't think of one significant public benefit that we're getting, but I can list a number of disadvantages, public disadvantages, including what we're going to end up with as an MBTA bus terminal over there.
So I'm not familiar enough with the specific benefits to say, oh, there's this or there's this. I do know that the bus stations from the idea of, you know, what the state might have been bargaining for. I don't think they were bargaining for parcel 6 as much as they were bargaining for the Haymarket T-stop and the bus station there. But this is speculation, not any kind of official
And it's not
position.
your responsibility.
No, right,
But you should be aware of the context. The bus station has been reduced in size by 50%. The 111 bus is going to be curbside on Surface Road, which is ridiculous. And when that was pointed out to Mass DOT, like, do you know that this route does not move during rush hour? And they gave us a diagram that showed how buses could pull into and out of spots on an empty street. When we were told we really want to have improved access to that Haymarket station, they gave us statistics that basically said, well, it's very, very low utilization because they forgot that there's this whole Somerville extension that's opening in, you know, within 7 years at this point. And it was just it was as if they had given this to the same group that sometimes does some of your maintenance of I'm going to say something politically correct, so I'm going to stop. But politically incorrect, but I'm going to stop. But it was not the best moments in planning, you know, and that's what we're facing over there. I mean, it would be nice if the Greenway could, with the BID, perhaps extract something out of these developers who are getting substantial tax breaks, building lots of stuff, and as David says, taking away stuff, not giving stuff to the community, making our bus station unworkable, making our access to the T worse than it is right now. It's very frustrating. It's not your department, but maybe the BID could be helpful. I don't know.
let me give you your floor back.
Please thank Jesse for